and welcome back to the Elevated Frequency podcast and show brought to you by The Green Door Life. My name is Shannon Morse, and I'm here with my fabulous co-founder, Lisa Kirby, and our very special guest, Amy Kelly, founder and CEO of Miri.ai. So we're very excited for this one today. Can't wait to dive into all of the topics. So welcome, Amy. We're so stoked to have you here.
I'm so happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yes, and I, as per usual, I like to volley it to Lise for kind of like the first question. And earlier we were talking about going into backstory, but where would you like to start, Lise?
I think just sharing, Amy, if you could, just a little bit about yourself, where you are currently in the world, and maybe even a little backstory before Miri, and then like what led into Miri.
Sure. So I am in the Bay Area. I am a current tech CEO, but I wasn't always. I'm a mom of 3 kids. I actually brought my oldest, my 9-year-old, to a panel I was on last night, and he wrote the most amazing notes that I can share later on. But I'm a mom. I am part of a large family here. And in my career, I was a behavioral health therapist for a long time, helping people directly. And then I'm a serial health entrepreneur. My prior company, called the Children's Institute, tried to bridge the gap of equity and access by creating a educational program like what doctors have. Doctor interns get educated and they provide patient services for less cost to the hospital. And I created that kind of educational program in a private practice setting so that they could get paid by families who needed help, and those families could access sliding scale therapy services. And I've always been really passionate about equity, access, empowering clinicians to have sovereignty in their practice so that they didn't get overworked or overwhelmed, which is a huge part of the problem in the system. And Miri is an extension of that. It's a way to use technology to even further amplify what I've been really excited about and devoted to in my career.
It's amazing. Very, very cool. And then, so Miri started how long ago now? A few years ago?
Actually, it's pretty new. So Miri started, Boris, my co-founder, and I came together in November of 2022. So that was the end of 2022. It's been about a year and a half.
Nice.
Awesome. And so it's so cool to hear the backstory here, Amy, because I just love when we look back over the course of our lives and kind of see all of these experiences that we've had that culminate in something that we're doing now, and kind of seeing the diverse threads that are moving through to create the thing that we're now super excited and pumped up about, especially as like entrepreneurs and creators. So when you first kind of wanted to bring this concept of Miri into the greater culture and community and make it accessible for more people, kind of what was really the sparking desire for you to make available to a larger community?
So I was blown away by AI. You know, I have known for a while that the real spark that ignites change is through relationships. Like, why do people go to a therapist every week? Like, people who have tried on their own with books and other resources to make changes in their lives. Like, why is it that they're paying between $100 to $300 a week for a therapist? And it's really because they need help with accountability. They need a relationship that feels comfortable. They can talk about anything. But we'll also give them the right education at the right time to help them achieve goals. So I've seen that for a long time in my career. And when I saw this MVP that my co-founder had created back in November of 2022, it blew me away. I thought, oh my goodness, the tech is finally here to solve for this relationship problem. where people want this accountability and accessibility, and we can use AI to finally solve for that for them. That was my real like, oh my gosh, the technology is here. We can make something cool happen.
Okay, real talk, Amy, because now I'm like dying to know. Did you, when AI kind of first came out, like ChatGPT and all this stuff, did you have any kind of like hesitation or concern? So I know it's interesting and kind of polarizing, even just trying to get people to like use a free resource. Any thoughts on that, or what came up first for you? Because I know a lot of people have like this visceral reaction of like, no, the robots are taking over.
Totally. I mean, I think two things. One is, so I had seen this technology before GPT hit. So it wasn't new for me. It was like, oh, wow, like everyone's loving this other thing. But I had just seen this like small little like demo. And so I had a really different experience than I think most people have with this particular technology. And then in terms of like fear around it, I think the reason why we feel collectively scared of AI is we know how powerful it is. We see it, we're like, wow, this feels like talking to a person. Like this can be used in many nefarious ways. And so I acknowledge that fear. I also share it. And I'm so confident and hopeful in how it can be used for good that usurps my fear. And I know other corporations and companies that are doing really great stuff with it. But, what I would say to folks who are nervous about AI is like, it's just a tool, and it's a really powerful tool, and be aware of how you feel in your body, and how you feel when you are, experimenting and trying different things. And if it doesn't resonate, and if it doesn't feel good, or if the company doesn't feel good, then don't do it anymore. And if there's a company that is using it in a way that you're like, this is really powerful, could make a really big impact on humanity and in my life personally, and if it feels good, then use it. So I think, it's just a tool, but it's a powerful tool, and it depends on whose hands it's in.
Yeah. And also just the intention. It's like anything. It's the intention that you as a user are going into using it with, and the intention of the creator for the use of the thing as well. And so I think that really becomes like a beautiful kind of redirect, because for those of you who are listening, you may not know what Miri is. You may not know what Shannon AI Coach is. So we can kind of give like a little bit of a further background to that as well. And I'll give like the little personal story, because this has been a fascinating just unfolding, because one of the Miri team I ran into at someone's birthday event, I think it was, and she had heard about the Green Door Life. She wasn't a client, but for some reason she thought that this would be a syncing, like a really good collaboration, and it would be a great fit. And then Amy, you and I had a call, and I immediately was like, ooh, this is a powerful woman. Okay. And
thought with you guys, by the way.
And I personally am very, very trusting of my intuition. And I believe that sometimes I'll get this bigger vision that will appear, whether it comes to light or not. But with Miri, I felt that very early on. And I think part of it has to do, again, with the intentionality for where you're coming from, Amy, and how you're looking to serve. And I think just that very basic piece is a huge part of any company or tool that we're looking to use as humans in this life, is first looking at the intentionality from the founder or the CEO to see what their deepest purpose and desire actually is. And then you'll see that kind of ripple out into everything that's created from that center point. So that's what I really resonate with and appreciate about you. And then with that, because in the beginning, it wasn't necessarily only going to be about, I mean, not that it is now, because right now what we have is we're the beta. So the Green Door Life, Shannon AI is this beta of how can we deliver this kind of high quality, personalized support and coaching through an AI platform, specifically around nutrition and meal planning and shopping lists and making the best decision for you. So I know that when we first kind of had this conversation, it was under this understanding that there would be a lot of different pathways that this particular AI model could be useful in. But what made Miri and the team decide that they wanted to focus on nutrition and health in that sense first?
So my background is in behavioral health coaching, right? And there's like a real opportunity to develop this infrastructure layer that can be a complementary, so almost like a supercharge for any health expert that we bring on to the Miri platform. We'll add like a therapy layer, right? Like on top of that to help with accountability and really help people stay on track. Why we focused on nutrition is a few reasons. When you're looking at holistic wellness, and you're also looking, I think, in that way, not just at an individual, we're thinking about environmental factors, we're thinking about climate factors, we're thinking about like what makes someone feel the best every single day. I think there's a lot of opportunity with education, particularly for women, to correct some kind of misguided prior resources. I don't know how to say this as politely as possible.
You're doing a great job.
Yeah.
Very
Yeah. I think there's a lot of like there was thoughts about so many different, we've been sold so many different things around sugar, around fat, around like calorie in, calorie out, like so many misguided ways of being, and disproportionately it's affected women. There's been a lot of toxic diet culture. There's been a lot of toxic like yo-yoing. There's been a lot of like ingesting of prescription medications. Like I think about that. I think about how all of that behavior has damaged our bodies, have damaged the earth. And it felt like the most relevant place to start.
Absolutely. Oh, I know. I was like, you can swear here, right? You can say we've been told some bullshit.
Oh, good. Okay. You know what? There was serious. And not only that, I think the convergence of, I'm going to just keep going. So it's like the convergence of what I just mentioned, plus in the AI space, right? Like as a female founder, statistically, we are funded less than 3% of the time. So Miri's been funded. I'm one of that lucky and grateful less than 3% of women CEOs to be founded and funded in Silicon Valley. But imagine that, like imagine a sea of a room of 100 people and there's 3 women, right? 3 women building companies. And out of those, which one of those is building a company for women's health? Like probably less than one, statistically, right? So I feel like a lot of responsibility to use this technology, this power that we were describing earlier, that is a force when used for good, and to help as many women as possible with it. So it was the convergence of both. It was like, here I am, CEO of an AI company. Let's use this tech and let's put all of it to women and women's health.
That makes me so excited.
I know. It's so relevant. It's so relevant. And I think too, this is all we've been talking about on our social media page the last few weeks. It's amazing to be in this space, kind of working with a lot of women who are in their, mid to late 30s, early 40s, mid 40s. And that's kind of where Shannon and I are at, and Amy and a lot of us, that's also converging at the same time, where we're like, when I look back at like my mom and my grandmas and my aunties, when they were this age, having a totally different life experience, where here we are and we're like, we still want to thrive. We still want to be healthy. We still want to have energy and be fit. And it's coming to this point of, like you're saying, Amy, like getting rid of all of this information that has been detrimental to our health. And I'm like every day on a soapbox, just like we've been given so much crap information. A lot of it is because it's harder to study. It's harder to study these like nutritional protocols and things in women because we cycle and we're different and we have different hormones. So there really is a need, and for so many, like to support women in a very like ethical, healthy way, you have to take into account all those little idiosyncrasies and bio-individual aspects of women. So we are very passionate about it, and it's such a need, and it just feels so good that you're like there, rooting for us and making sure that that support is available.
Oh, thanks. I mean, purpose is so important. Like, like both of you are saying, like, I think it's up to us to form the new world the way that we see it. And women are important, and our health is important. And historically, we have not been given enough. And like, we are all, I think the three of us are here to really change that. I think collectively as a society, we know that needs to be changed. And I do really believe that AI is an effective tool to bridge the gap and make it happen.
I so agree, and I want to even speak into that further. And also, Lise, you said that it's harder to do the studies on women, and I want to add harder and more expensive. So it's maybe it's because I'm a woman, but I feel like we have so many clear signs as women in our own bodies that actually make it quite easy to assess when we're in or out of balance. So in that sense, I don't feel that it's necessarily like harder. I feel like it's more expensive.
Oh, for sure.
So they have to track more variables.
Absolutely.
And in that sense, and I think for those of you who are watching, and we're not trying to leave men out, like we're all for men's health as well, but the women's health has been misrepresented, misguided, and so much of the conflicting information that we've gotten for so long as females has come from the studies that have been done predominantly on men. And even, and Amy, I believe that we had this conversation privately, but Lisa and I have this really incredible opportunity to see so many different women go through very similar experiences and see other practitioners come in to coach them from a male perspective because their education was male-based. And to look at that and go, okay, so not only are the studies generally based on males, but the education about health is based on male studies. And so then there is this, like really the seed of all the information, or the majority of information that we've had in the textbooks and in the past have been built around male health and not around female health. And so that's why, and bringing it circle back to the Shannon AI coach and what Miri's doing, but more specifically with Shannon AI coach, what I love about it and what, we've been able to like discuss back and forth is the type of vocabulary. So it's not telling someone what to do based on a study. It's helping the individual to understand how it might impact their body, what to listen for in their own body, and then giving them the choice. And that is a completely different model than anything in our health industry right now. So it gives this whole different, like truly transformative and revolutionary experience, which is why I love that our recent health challenge was the revolution, or I think so, right? Wasn't that? Yeah, thank you. It's like, wasn't that the word?
It was.
And
I agree. It's interesting because, and I told you this, Shannon, that Lisa, you'll like laugh with this. I wonder if I've told you this too, but just in building Shannon AI, I have like lost 4 pounds, not because I've like specifically followed that, but because now Shannon AI is in my head and all these choices come to the forefront And it's like, what choice am I going to make today for my body? How am I going to show up for myself? How do I feel? And I'm finding myself making different choices just through building the program. And I haven't even tried. I stepped on the scale. I was like, whoa, I lost 4 pounds. I didn't even try to do that. And I feel like, my energy levels are more consistent throughout the day. I'm feeling like much more active, much more able to show up and be present. I'm not like up and down in, I think, ways that I was when I was drinking like a liter of coffee and not eating until like 1 p.m. So I've come far in my own personal journey just by building this product for people, for women. And that's been kind of wild for me. And I think you're right. It's about making small choices that have large impact. And that's so different than like stepping on a scale and shame and like all of the things that we were speaking about earlier that add up to that toxic diet culture that we've been kind of trained on and our mothers and grandmothers had in their ears. This is just about presenting personalized education and saying, like, here you are with a choice. I'm here to help you with that choice. And every small choice adds up to big results. And it's such a different way of thinking about our bodies and what we put into our bodies.
Absolutely. And it's giving us the opportunity to listen, because most of our health education hasn't been about listening to what our body's actually saying. It's been about, oh, you're sick, take this pill, or you want to lose weight, stop eating. So much, like whatever it might be, it's not like, well, what makes you think that? Like, what in your body is signaling to you that you might be having that experience? And what do we know about nutrition science, exercise science, just behavioral change that can help you to identify what might be causing that in the first place? So, I mean, I think that in terms of like the AI capacity, and of course, we've talked about this and it's still unfolding. So for those of you who are listening, try this out. Shannon AI Coach, go to Miri.ai, try it out. Because as you use it, Miri.ai and Shannon AI Coach learns along with you. And we also want to really identify that it's not the same thing as Chat GPT. And Lisa and I actually did this little exercise where we put in the same question to both areas, to both Shannon AI Coach and Chat GPT. And it was a very different response. Not even slightly different, but a very different response. And I think that's the power of combining the human experience and human practitioners with AI. So getting the best of both worlds, and having that kind of collaboration feels like the most powerful to me.
After you told me that, I did a bunch of experiments and I'll send them to you so you can like circulate them. But I've got a ton of those like question answer differences, and they're very, very different from Chat GPT. I think about Chat GPT and other large language models as sort of like the engine under the hood.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's a technology there, and how do you use it? And
Mm-hmm.
for us, it's about scaling and amplifying educational resources and making it personalized with ongoing memory so that it feels as close as possible to a real coach that we can make it.
And Amy, can you share a little bit more, just for people who don't know, how you guys like extracted that education and information from Shannon and the Green Door Life and like uploaded it into the technology, and like how you're about that for other experts too?
Yeah, sure. So the way that I think about it is almost like an infinite, like if you imagine a table that's like an infinite table, then underneath that there's these like honey pots, and we have your information that's specific for you in your program and your courses in the Shannon AI honeypot, and that's where the information is being drawn from, and that's different than the product we're making that is about Buddhism text, and it's different than the product we're making that's around longevity, and it's different than the product that we're making around functional medicine or around pediatrics. So all of these individual resources create their own kind of coaching products that people can interact with for getting to the right answer really quickly based on what your current needs are in the moment.
So cool. Yeah, Shannon knows that I like to nerd out on Miri because I'm like, it just sits here and listens to me like right away, and it like answers me right away. I just have to laugh sometimes as a mom where it's like, you have to ask like 10 times. And I'm like, Miri's it's so on it. It just responds right away. I just really appreciate that efficiency.
Yeah, I love the like no waiting room, like there's no waiting room. You don't have to like get on the phone. You don't have to like feel like, oh, should I text at like 10 p.m. at night? Like
there's no
all
resistance.
that. Yeah, it's just like there for you, which is what women need, right? Like going back to like building for women. I think historically when we lived in communities that were more cohesive and connected, we could talk to other women about what was working for them and what wasn't working in their health. And they could give us these kind of instant feedback responses. And it felt like, okay, I'll try that out. So we could live happier and healthier lives, whether that was, in a moment of distress or just curiosity or because of a life event. We could kind of ask and engage with other women more clearly than we can today. And so this gives an opportunity to, I think, every woman to have that experience of like, I'm remembering one person that I spoke to recently that was like, I felt like after I had a baby, I didn't have anyone to talk to about like sadness that I had about how my body was. And, I was supposed to just be happy. And she felt this like loss of connection. And we've kind of built that world for ourselves. This independence is really amazing that we have. And also, there's a loneliness too in the world that we've constructed. And so being able to help people feel less alone in their health journey and have sort of this like woman's input and hone in on intuition and our knowing, like our inner knowing, anytime that we need it, so that we then can live happier and healthier lives outside of technology is the real goal.
It's a beautiful goal. It's a beautiful intention.
Sometimes you just need to know, oh, I'm not alone, or this is normal. It's actually normal to feel that little sadness. It's like a grieving almost of like, I will never not be a mom now. Almost like this transition, this identity transformation that you really can't prepare for. But just knowing that, hey, a little sadness is normal, or connecting you with someone. I think that is so spot on, and it is missing. And it's almost like, it's amazing. Like we just did a masterclass on like female hormones and menopause and like that transition. And we're mind blown still to this day that most women don't even know how their cycles work, just on a monthly cycle, like with estrogen and progesterone. And like, hey, your luteal phase is like, you're going to feel a little more tired and a little more hungry and a little more cranky. And that's normal. I think a lot of women just feel relief of like giving themselves permission of, wow, okay, maybe I'm not meant to operate, 24/7 like a man on a 9-to-5 schedule every day, 40 hours a week. Like I'm more in a flow state than that. Like 3 days before my period, I'm laid out on the couch. I'm still working, but I need to be in this like very nourishing, like calming space for my body in order to like keep functioning, So I think it's so important for women to know what's normal and not feel so alone. So important.
Absolutely. I agree.
And we've also talked about like it's one thing to have Miri and Shannon AI coach and these kind of upcoming platforms for these subsects of genres, like for the niches that we're looking to service in terms of just education or health or well-being. And then we've also talked about how to implement further like community into that. So I know that that's something that Miri also has in mind, because that exactly what we're talking about. recently came off of running a group call earlier today, which we're currently running a 12-week group. And just that ability to have those conversations openly with either one person or a larger group of individuals is so needed. Or else, we just end up kind of in our own head going, maybe there's something wrong with me. And to have some sort of external response, whether it's from the Shannon AI coach and other platforms from Miri or from friends or having a conversation like this, it just helps to start to normalize so that we can further identify where something that's occurring in our body is quote unquote normal or in balance, or where it might be out of balance. I kind of think about this with astrology as well. When sometimes you're like, oh, we have how many houses in Pluto? And then you're like, well, that makes some sense, doesn't it? If we don't know that that's happening and that that's an influence, then we're most likely going to be walking around going like, yo, is it just me? Is it just me?
Totally. It's like we need each other, right? And I think the more we can like celebrate each other, help each other when we're down, like reach out. I think we've come to a place where we've reached so much independence that people can feel sometimes like they're a burden to, talk about things with other people. And I'm hoping that actually Miri and Miri.ai can help with like just practicing asking some of those tough questions and opening a dialogue with other women and saying like, I tried this, I talked about this, and this was what worked. So it's like it breaks that first barrier where maybe it feels awkward at 10 p.m. at night to say something that's a little embarrassing. But then if you actually get some help around that and then want to share that win with other people, it creates a way, like a door there for community and for celebrating each other.
I love that. It's basically like taking baby steps.
Yeah.
Just getting your reps in.
Mm-hmm. Just getting your reps in. Exactly.
I love it. Okay. So I feel like we're covering so many different things in so many different areas. Is there anything that you want to make sure that we talk about before we kind of wrap up for the day?
No, I think if you're listening here, I want you to know that you deserve a high touch and real concierge health experience. And I'm building it for you. And I'm excited for you to try it. And we haven't forgotten you as women here. And it's getting better. I'm very hopeful.
Awesome. And for those of you who are listening and haven't tried it yet, I would totally recommend giving it a try, both as a client and as a practitioner. So what's been so cool, because as Shannon AI develops and is used more and has continual updates and all these things, Lisa and I get to play around with it in different ways and then also refer it to our clients. And we're finding that it's like a really good sidekick for what we already do because it essentially scales us. And that I think is a really important thing, because in the beginning, I would hear conversations about individuals kind of feeling afraid that AI would kind of take their role. And what I've found is that the nature of being human is we have intuition. We have incredible never-ending nuance. And that right now is not really being able to be replicated through AI, but the combination of the two is the most incredible combination, because some of the little things that might feel taxing as a practitioner to have to respond in certain ways or find out, like even like doing a little bit of research and being like, okay, I won't have time to do that kind of research until tomorrow. And then the Shannon AI coach, at least in this conversation, can literally come back with the answer almost immediately, which gives the client the opportunity to have that answer, but also as a coach still allows that individual to be supported without feeling like it has to tax us when we don't have the time, or having that big, long waiting room experience like you're talking about, Amy. So that part has been really, really cool to see as a practitioner. So kind of removing any like fear that I've heard other people talk about with AI and that kind of coming in and perhaps taking a role for this. Because to me, it doesn't feel like that. It feels like it really gives so many more individuals the opportunity to have this kind of support who can't afford it. And it also has this second pathway where it's really like this most amazing sidekick or like assistant even, or like the second coach to the primary coach or whatever it might be. So that's been the experience so far, which I find very, very exciting. And I can see so many benefits for practitioners and users around the world. So I just want to say I'm very thankful that we get to be a part of this initial journey. And I am so excited, and I was really am grateful for the vision that you're holding, Amy, in this experience, because your vision really means everything for this to be able to succeed. And you holding that integrity is going to be such a game changer. And I definitely believe in you.
Yeah.
Thanks, Lisa.
Very exciting. Well, and
so nice.
I have to laugh too, because every like business mastermind and a business investment we've made, they're like, you need to replicate yourself. Like that's the first thing they tell you. You need to figure out how to replicate yourself. And it's like through all, we've been in business now for like 5 years. And now we're like, oh crap, like this technology will allow you to replicate yourself. Like that is like almost fully replicate yourself, which is insane. So it can really be that benefit for practitioners and coaches, which is so cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I am so happy to help scale and enhance and replicate the best providers, and you guys are amazing partners. You're doing so much and really helping women, and it just was like the best fit partnership that I could imagine. And I'm really excited for people to try it, to talk to more providers like you. I'm very mindful of our community, and I want to make sure that they're the right experts to help with real problems. So, I'm happy to please reach out if you are an expert and you're helping women. I want to tackle this and use this technology to help you.
Beautiful. Awesome. All right, you guys, those of you who are able to watch either right now or in the future, make sure to keep following along, because I'm sure whenever we end up watching this later on, a lot of things will have changed and things will have evolved. And I'm just really excited to see what's next. So thank you everyone for listening. Thank you so much, Amy, for joining us. It was such a treat.
This was great. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah. And thanks, Lise, of course, as always, for being my right-hand woman.
And it's Miri.ai if you want to go try it. Is that right?
That's right. You got it.
All right, everyone. Thank you so much. And we will see you next time.
Thanks.